Okay. Lindy, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much, Joe. How are you today?
Yeah, no, I'm going all right, thank you.
Good.
So, welcome again to another little short session on some 4x4 stuff. So this one is AUR 30260, and today we're going to be covering IFS suspension systems, which is independent front suspension systems. So just a quick little overview about that. So what is an IFS suspension system? So basically IFS, like I said before, that stands for independent front suspension. A vehicle suspension where each front wheel moves up and down independently from the other. This design, using control arms, allows for a more comfortable ride and better handling, especially on paved roads due to reduced unsprung weight. So you'll find this suspension in pretty much most passenger cars, a lot of four-wheel drive. Now it's a very modern type of suspension. We're going to dive into that a bit later on and show you sort of what suspension's in what and that sort of stuff. But before we get too much further into it, you're comfortable, you've got a drink, you've got a pen, you're all ready to go. As long as you sit comfy, toilets are out there just to the left. If you need to do any other things, have a break, just let me know. We can have a brief pause. But for now, if you're comfortable and happy enough with the first little quiz. So again, this is just to see how you go prior to learning anything about this sort of stuff. So there's no expectations or pressure. I just want you to have a crack at those answers and see how you go. So take your time, probably 5 minutes or so like that, and then just let me know when you've finished and we can...
Oh, all of them?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, there's 2 pages there, I believe.
Yeah.
So once you finish those ones, just let me know and we'll jump straight into it.
Okay.
But don't let them overwhelm you, but they're just questions, so don't stress.
Okay.
I can guarantee we'll do this quiz again later. I can guarantee you'll probably get them all right by the end of this one. She's back in 2 seconds, Lindy.
Yeah.
How'd you go? You got it all sorted? You think?
Not quite sure, but I've tried my best.
All right, well, let's have, if you're finished, we'll have a quick little look and see where you've ended up.
Okay.
Okay, you got that one, that's good. Not a bad start, Lindy, but
Not bad.
there's a few there, but we'll cross
Yeah.
those when we get there. Okay, that's
Okay.
good. Okay, so we're going to jump right into all the components here. So there's a fair few. So I'll go as slowly as I can. So yeah, feel free to take as many notes as you need to. So we're going to go through all these here. So they've got the coil spring, the strut and the shock, which I'll get to those. They're pretty much the same thing. I'll explain what they are. Ball joints, bearing bushes, torsion bar, upper and lower control arms, sway bars, and the sway bar link rods. So here's a little picture of what they sort of look like in a car. So yeah, it's a bit hard to read, but they're all there. So we're going to start with the coil spring first. So I've got a nice green one here, so you can see that okay, no
yes,
problem.
Yes.
Okay, so a coil spring is a helical steel bar designed to absorb shock, provide wheel travel, and maintain tyre contact for improved traction and control on varied terrain. So basically, starts as a long piece of steel, it gets heated up and wrapped around a special machine in a fabrication shop, and it ends up like that. And then all these companies buy them and paint them all these cool colours. So the colour doesn't necessarily mean too much, but basically, along with that, the spring's main job, or another main job, is to maintain the height of the vehicle as well. So, with those other things, of course, they play a huge part. But if the spring's not strong enough to handle the weight of the car, it'll just, we call it sagging. So it'll sag down and be quite stiff on that one side, being an independent suspension setup. So yeah, with the coil springs, there's a lot of different variations. So in the 4x4 world, most standard will just say dual cab utes, have them in the front, and they're just very, very much, made for that weight and that weight only. Then all these people start throwing on bull bars and winches and accessories and make the car quite heavy. You have to adjust your suspension, otherwise things can break and tyre wear and that sort of stuff. So the way you do that is you get a heavy rated spring, because if you put on a bull bar, a steel bull bar in most cases weighs anywhere from 80 to 100 kilos, sometimes more. And that's straight in the very front of the car. So that's the very frontal part of the car has an extra 100 kilos on it, which is going to make it nosedive. And therefore the camber and cast of the wheels is going to be out of whack because it's overweight. So you need to get upgraded springs. You can get them for like a lightweight, which is if you have an aluminium bull bar, which weighs a lot less than steel. So that'll be probably 15 to 30 kilo bull bar. You can get just slightly upgraded. A medium one would be just a steel bar with no other accessories, or you can go for heavy, which is a steel bar, winch, everything else, which keeps the ride height nice and high. And when you do hit a bump, it absorbs it well. Obviously, the shock absorber will do the absorbing, but if you hit a big bump with an overweight vehicle and the spring's not right, you can feel it. It'll just push you through the back of the car. So it's pretty uncomfortable. So it's very important when you are adding weight to a vehicle to adjust the spring rates, because it can be dangerous too. I mean, and all these components here are under a lot more stress if the spring rate's not right. So the spring's a pretty important one. So from the spring into the front strut, so these two things here, the shock absorber and the strut, basically do the same thing. Their job is to absorb the shock, hence shock absorber. So, but the main difference with this one here, as you can see in this first photo, this spring wraps around that strut. Okay, so the spring goes straight over the top, and that little part there where it sort of goes out to the sides is a little seat. So what that means is it's cut out, perfectly shaped for the spring. So the spring sits in that spot only in one position, so it can't come out. And then on top of that, you put your hat, which I'll get to that. I've got a photo of the hat down lower. Hat goes on, you can press the spring down, and then you do up all your bolts and nuts, so that stays in there. Okay, so the spring is over the top of that strut. Whereas this is shock absorber. See how there's no seat down the bottom there?
No.
Yep, that just goes straight from your chassis to your diff or whatever it might be to absorb the shock. So that's what that one's for. And all these little bushes and washers go on the top side. Because then you've got an eye bush. You can see that little hole right there. That's where the bolt goes through, the mounting bolt. And then on the top of you, it'll go into the top of your chassis somewhere. And then you just put your washers and stuff, and then that goes on top. So that one's a pretty basic setup. Like I said, they do the same thing, but this one just has the spring going over the top and down onto the seat. And that's where the IFS spring and strut design comes into play.
Right.
Okay. Oh, sorry, and on these ones too. These ones are pretty much just your factory replacement type setups. But on the newer, well, not so much newer ones, but like more fancier aftermarket brands, you can adjust these. So if you're looking for more height in the front of your car, you'll have some little adjustment bars down here on a thread. So you crack one off, wind one up, which compresses the spring more, which makes the ride height go up. So you can do that. And what some companies have done, like I said before about the spring rates, they just made one spring, but if you adjust that, like wind that up and down, and in some kits you get little spaces and make the spacing right, you can have one spring that covers for an unloaded car or a heavier car as well. So some mobs have really thought about it quite intensely, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yes.
And also with the shock absorbers, you can get aftermarket ones that have a remote reservoir, which means you'll have a bit of braided line coming off that into a remote canister separate to the shock itself. That's pretty much just more for performance than if you're doing like outback racing over heaps of jumps and stuff, and the suspension's getting a real workout. You got to keep that, because they're all full of oil. You got to keep the oil nice and cool so they don't lose their functionality properly. Okay, on to ball joints. So ball joint is a spherical bearing connected to the control arms to the steering knuckle, allowing the suspension to move vertically and the wheels to pivot for steering. So inside here, little bearing. So this little shaft here can move any way it wants to, obviously without going too high. So it's a full range of motion in there. That little circlip goes at the top here, which locks it into place in either the lower or the upper control arm. And that little split pin there is through here, because this is a tapered shaft with a castle nut, and it just means there's been holes cut out. So you tighten it up, line the hole up that goes through the pin. Not through the pin, through the shaft, and then slide your pin through so it can't come undone. Because these are the things, if they do come undone, it's a bad day for the driver, because that can mean a huge accident and sometimes worse. So you make sure those castle nuts are done up nice and tight. Split pin goes through, that way it cannot come undone.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And the bushes, well, they're called bushings, but bushes, it's the same sort of thing. A lot of different variations to these ones, but these are the main ones you're going to find like as a factory part in the car. So they're a metal sleeve, rubber bush, and then an outer metal piece as well. So there's not much wiggle room, but because the car's obviously quite heavy, it does wiggle around a bit, which is good. So you can get polyurethane versions of those too, which is a lot more durable and they last a bit longer, but some applications they're not quite as good as these ones. So, and they just go, like I said before, I'll find that picture again. That's an eye bush down there, and this one's got one in there as well. So you can replace those on most of your shocks. Usually notice a bit of the ride height will be down, or it'll just drive a bit rough, and you check the bushes and you replace the bushes and you're away to go. So that's the bushes.
Are there many bushes?
A lot. More so in a solid axle vehicle, which we're not looking at today. That's like your Land Cruisers and your Patrols. They've got pushes everywhere. For every suspension component, they've got multiple. So, but IFS, you've just got probably the top hat, which is one which I'll get to in a minute. The lower bush, yeah, there's a few, but probably not as many as the IFS vehicle. So, yeah, but they're a very big part, because they tend to crack, and especially if you've got a car that's got a few thousand Ks on it, they tend to crack and wear, and the rubber just gets hard. They'll just start to perish. That just makes it drive like a little bit ordinary. Okay, torsion bar. So a torsion bar is a steel rod used in the vehicle's front suspension that acts like as a spring when twisted and untwisting to absorb the road's impacts and support the vehicle's weight. So these are a bit of an outdated system nowadays that we've moved to the coil over strut setup. So these ones here, I'm not sure if you can see the picture. This goes right the way back to probably around where your driver's door might be. Mm-hmm. And there's a mount that's onto the chassis, and then it goes down here. You have a big nut and bolt that you wind up, which will raise the car. And then if you want to lower it, you just unwind it. And there's a locking nut too. So once you get it to the desired height, you do the lock nut up and tighten that up. That way it can't move. But like I said, these are pretty outdated now. They were on the 105 series Land Cruisers and a few other ones as well, but not too many cars have them, and the D22 Navaras, but they don't make them anymore. So they've moved to more of the standard coil over strut setup, just because it's A lot more comfortable. This is very rough to drive in.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and how it works is both ends have got splines on either end, so you can see those really fine teeth. They go into another fine tooth mechanism up here, which locks it in place, and then again into the front of the lower control arm, which is this bit here. Again, a little spline into there, which locks it in place again, so it doesn't move from there. All the action comes from here. Then as you twist it, it raises the car up. So they're pretty. It is cool technology, but it's just I don't know any other cars that have it, to be honest. I haven't seen it. I've only seen any of those ones I've just mentioned before. So, all right, upper control arms. Quick swig. So upper control arms, we just call them UCAs, are a crucial suspension component that connect the vehicle suspension to the chassis and independent front suspension systems, helping maintain wheel alignment, manage suspension geometry, and improve handling. So these, again, are a massive part. So they do all the action from all the up and down movement. Okay,
Right.
Well, one of the two parts that do all the up and down movement. So these are mounting parts here. So these two here. So what that does is it mounts onto there. That's your shock tower. So it goes from there, crosses here. A big long bolt goes all the way through there behind it, and you do it up. And that's what, like I said, over a bump, that'll come up. Going down, it'll lower it down. That keeps the whole system moving. And there's your ball joint. It sits in here. So these are an aftermarket arm. Okay, so this is not what it looks like on every car. This is a high-performance aftermarket one. And if you're going to raise your car up, you'll raise your suspension or upgrade your suspension, it's recommended that you put these in just because it gives you more flexibility with your wheel alignments and that sort of stuff as well, and more travel, more articulation, all those sorts of things. And when you're going off-road quite a bit, you need that articulation. You got to get up over rocks and get the car to flex, as they call it. So, and a lot of them, this one does, okay. So in that hole there, what you'll find is a little grease nipple. So when you do a service, you pump that full of grease, because that's your little ball joint. Oh, got too far. That's your ball joint just in there. So see, that was the castle nut we're talking about. For God's sake. That's your castle nut just there.
Yeah.
So that's what we do up, put the pin through. So that's where all the grease is, and that's where the little bearing is too, so to keep that full of grease. And those are bushes in here. In these two holes here, you'll find some bushes of some sort, probably very similar to those ones we looked at before. So the big bolt goes through, sets those bushes in place. And when you do install these onto a car, you don't do them up tightly. You do them up when the car's on the ground under its own full weight, okay?
Oh, right.
But if you were to do it up on a hoist where the suspension's fully sagged or fully drooped, you do it up, and when the car goes back on the ground, it's going to be fighting that bush to get back in its resting position, and that's just going to rip your bushes in half within a matter of kilometres. So, yeah, on the ground's always the best way to do that. And yeah, and adjustment-wise, this one's got it. You probably can't quite see it, but just here, you've got two nuts just before that mounting bracket there. And what that does is, you crack one, you wind that in or out, which helps with wheel alignments and caster and camber. So, like I said, when you do raise your vehicle, all that gets thrown out the window. You've got to start again with a wheel alignment. And with this adjustment, you can set it so it's easier to do wheel alignments and that sort of stuff, because every time you hit a big bump out in the sticks, it's going to push it out of alignment anyway. So having that extra bit of adjustment is very handy, because, and a lot of people run big tyres and all that sort of stuff as well. So having extra adjustment on your upper arms is a pretty good thing to have when you're running big tyres and doing a lot of trips, like that sort of stuff. So
Right.
that's upper arms. They're very, very important. So just as much as the lower control arms here, so this is a factory, it looks like a pretty factory set off a car like mine, for example. So you've got, again, like the upper arm, you've got your two mounting holes here, and then there's your ball joint down the end there. So it works the same way, just going the opposite way. So upper arm pivots like that, lower arm pivots sort of like that. So working in the same sort of way, but just read the blurb here. A lower control arm, or LCA, is a key component of the vehicle's suspension system that connects the wheel hub assembly to the vehicle's chassis or subframe, allowing the wheel to move up and down while controlling its lateral, lower, and other movements. So again, this just goes up and down, and that ball joint goes onto your hub, which you can't quite see there. It wasn't the best photo. But that bolts into your hub, so that can, again, move around if it needs to, but it shouldn't have much movement. But again, these bushes here is what do most of the work. And when you are doing a wheel alignment, you'll see here these little 1, 2, 3, 4. They're your adjuster bolts, and what they are is it's like an off-centered bolt which you put through there, those holes there, which is where the lower arms go in. And when you're doing a wheel alignment, once you get it right, you set them up, you tighten them, and then you mark it. So when if you're looking around the car after a trip and you see that's out of alignment, it means you've got to go for a wheel alignment, and that's how you adjust it. So you loosen that off, and you've got a special machine. I don't know how they work. I've never used one. On the machine, it'll show you on the little, because you drive on these little pads, and it tells you what the angles of the caster and camber is. And when you get it right, that's when you lock up the nuts, so it stays in the one place. Then you mark it, and so every time you go out bush, you just check those things to make sure it's all okay. You hit a big enough bump, it'll knock it out of wheel alignment. So they're pretty important. And again, that's this factory one. This big aluminium one here is like an aftermarket one, but that's for a very high travel suspension. So that's off a car like mine, but that whole system is pretty tricked up for some big articulations, of going over big mounds and that sort of stuff. So there's there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, but at the end of the day, as long as they all work together, there shouldn't really be any problems. All right, sway bar and sway bar link rods. So we'll start with the sway bar, or anti-roll bar. You can call it that if you like. It's the same kind of thing. It's a component that connects opposite wheels to reduce body roll and improve handling by twisting and applying a counterforce to level the vehicle during turns or over uneven terrain. So fronts of these will have them, and even with the rears, some companies have actually made them for the rear. If you've got a loaded up back of the ute, hit a corner hard enough, it'll feel like it's going to tip, and that's what this will do for the rear as well. So it's the same principle for the front as well. So it's just an anti-roll bar. So if you hit a corner, it's going to stabilise the car, keep it nice and flat on the road.
Right.
And the link rods. So these are your link rods here. And what they do is they literally go. There's a hole there on the sway bar, so it goes from there up to your chassis somewhere, and that's what mounts the sway bar to the chassis. So these are all adjustable. Again, these are aftermarket ones. These are adjustable, so if you've lifted the car a bit, you can adjust them to where they're sitting right. Because if they're too short, they'll break. If they're too long, they're not going to do anything. So you've got to get the adjustment right. And there's where little mounting bolts and bushes and all that sort of stuff on those ones. And on these ones specifically, they've got some little grease nipples there. So when you do install them in the car, bit of grease, just keep the inner nice and lubricated so it doesn't seize up and squeak and squeal. But yeah, these are a good thing. If you take them out the car, you just want to drive all over the road. Even on a straight line, it'll want to it'll want to walk all over the road. So they're a good thing, and for safety as well. So just the link rod connects the vehicle's sway bar to its lower control arm or strut. Its primary function is to minimise body roll and enhance handling by transferring forces from the suspension to the sway bar during turns, keeping the vehicle stable and flat. So basically, in a nutshell, that's just to keep the vehicle as stable as you can on the road. So any questions about all those? Probably got a few, I'd imagine. There's a bit of information there.
I mean, when you go out on a trip, and especially if you're going out in the country, I mean, you've got to understand what all these do, and if you were to notice the car was swaying, you would immediately know what the problem was.
Well, it depends. I mean, with the sway bar, like, if the car's, that can be a few things. Sway bar is obviously one of them. And I've seen a few times at work where the factory link rods, because some cars now they're plastic. I don't know why they use plastic, but they snap. So, it's going to want to walk to that one side because there's nothing to sort of hold it there. And every time we do a suspension, we recommend to do just aftermarket links at least, because the sway bar, they don't change much. It's just a big steel rod that goes through. So they don't really change too much. But the link rod, if you're lifting your car, 2 inches, it might be okay to leave the factory ones in, but at 3 inches and more, 100% use these, because they're also going to limit your flex and articulation if they're too short. So if you get a 2.5 inch lift, for example, let's say, and get over a big mound, that can't go any further than what it's set to. So I mean, if you got a big lift and factory sway bar links, it's going to kind of stop the car from having that full flex. Where if you get adjustable ones and set them sort of when they're right, you'll be able to have that full range of flex with the upper and lower arms doing what they do. So, but in terms of on the road wobbling, that can definitely be one of them. Also tyre size. People get pretty carried away with their tyre sizes, and they can make the car drive all over the place. But that'd be a good place to start, is definitely the sway bar, because the bushes here, they're the two bushes that sort of go around there, roughly. There's two mounting bushes, they sort of go there and there. They crack and perish, and that means the bar is not sort of it can wobble around as well. It can slide left to right, depends on which way you turn. So they can shift with the turning of the car, which can make it slide side to side as well. So, yeah, pretty important. But on the newer cars, they've got it pretty well down pat. But we always sort of suggest if you're doing a lift, just get an aftermarket set of those. So they're not that expensive, and they provide more good than bad when you're doing that sort of stuff anyway. But yeah, that's what I'd say about the swaying. Definitely check all the bushes in those because they perish quite often, the top bushes in these ones, just because they're under a fair bit of stress. And when you're going up and down, they will wear. So check the bushes on the link rods and also the sway bar. See how they look. And then if that's what the problem is, you fix the bushes and you're good to go again. So
would you have spares of all these things when you're going out?
If you're going on a big
trips
trip,
like this?
definitely. Yeah, if you're going on a big trip.
Because, as you say, if they're plastic and they're going to perish or going to break.
Yeah, 100% I would. Yeah. So if I was going away for a weekend, it wouldn't be too much of a drama. But if I'm going away quite remote for a long period of time, I'd have all this stuff in the back of the ute. 100%. Right. Yeah, just new bushes. Not so much the rods themselves. If I have aftermarket rods, they're not going to snap. I just have the bushes. These are called D bushes. They're shaped like a D. So I'd have some D bushes, some of those bushes, some grease, and just your basic toolkit for this particular application would be fine. But yeah, definitely if you're going away on a big remote trip, you'd have every spare part you could fit in the car, just because you don't want to get halfway there and have something go wrong. That'd be shocking.
Yeah. Stuck.
Well, that's right. Was there anything else before we get stuck in the next bit?
When you would go in for a normal service in a car, are these all the things that would be checked? Because they obviously are all very important.
Yep.
So that would normally be at a maintenance check when you put your car in.
Well, a lot of people, what they'll do is have a pre-trip inspection, which means the car they'll come in maybe a month or two before they're going to go away, and we'll go over the car. The whole lot of it will check fluids, suspension, all that sort of stuff. And we'll check if it even goes into four-wheel drive, because sometimes we've had a few cars come in, they're going on a trip the next week and the car doesn't actually go into four-wheel drive, which is pretty handy.
Goodness.
Because all the newer cars are they've got little actuators. You don't actually put the car in yourself, you just flick a switch and it clicks into four-wheel drive. So we check all that sort of stuff, but suspension's a big one, because not only is it obviously frustrating when things are broken, they make horrible noises when they're dry or there's something wrong. They just squeak and squeal and they'd just be annoying. But also, if you're going away on a big trip, give yourself a bit of time. You bring it into work, we make sure it's all good. And if there is things that need fixing, you write a list. You go, here's what we recommend you'd fix.
Right.
And then it's up to them to fix it if they want to. But most of the time people go, yeah, let's just do it. Because a lot of our customers go Simpson Desert, Alice Springs, they go a long way away. So
they need to know that things are workable 100%. And not going to have problems.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And I mean, if you put just because people put new suspension in their car, and it's been fine for a couple of years, doesn't mean things aren't starting to go wrong. So we always give it a good once over, check everything out, like all the upper arms, lower arms, check the bushes, check the play, check out all the, like I said, the bushes, check all the bolts are tight, all that sort of stuff. Everything just gets a spanner chucked on it,
right? Because
that way we know for sure that this has got our stamp of you're good to go, go have some fun. Exactly right. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Was there any more, Lindy?
No, that makes absolute sense.
Beautiful.
And of course, yes, you would go away with a clear conscience knowing that you've had it checked and hopefully everything's okay.
It also depends on how you drive your car too. If you drive like an idiot and you break your suspension and we said it was fine, that's hardly on us. So
no.
You've got to be a little bit sensible. Exactly right. All right, so after all that, I'm just going to show you what it kind of looks like in a car. So this is your torsion bar, the big long bar.
Mm-hmm.
And another word I should have used before, they call this style is wishbone suspension setup. Because you've got your upper arm, which looks like a wishbone.
Yeah.
And your lower arm, which looks like a wishbone as well. So they call it the wishbone kind of setup. So up here you've got this one just runs a strut. A shock. So this is not a coil over strut, this is just a shock. That's your upper arm. This is your lower arm. And that's your torsion bar, okay? And there's no sway bar in this picture. There should be, but there isn't. I couldn't find one that had all of them. So that's the basic rundown of how the torsion bar system works. So you wind it up from this way with a big gun or a bar, and that's what jacks the car up. But like I said, a very rough farm truck feel. Pretty horrible, actually. This is coil over strut. Okay, so this is what's in my car, and most dual cab forward drives you see on the road have this suspension set up. So you've got your, excuse me, this is out of my car, one like mine. So a good example. This is your lower control arm. That one right there. That's your mounting bolts on one side, then the other ones are back there, you can't quite see them. That's your strut with the coil string wrapped around it. And that bolt right there is where your bush is, your lower mounting bush. That is your sway bar coming around the front, and that's your link rod that runs up there. Okay, that little silver bar, link rod. And upper arm is that one there that wraps it around like that. And you can see that's the ball joint just there. Oh, let me do it. That's the ball joint just above where the link rod finishes. Okay.
Right, yep.
Oh, here's a better photo actually. We'll use this one. That's your control arm. So this is where the car's on the ground, and this is at full droop. So you can see the angle is right down because the car's obviously got no weight on it. And this being on the ground, it'll sit sort of up here somewhere, nice and flat. Again, that's your sway bar, link rod, etc. Coil over spring, and that's your top hat there. So what that is, it's a bush, essentially, a rubber post that sits on top of the spring. Because how the springs work, it's fully round all the way until it gets to the top, and they've cut it perfectly flat. So the spring just gets sort of cut in half crossways. So it's nice and flat for this top hat to sit on. So you can see just there, you can kind of see how the spring's just been cut.
Oh, yes, yes.
So it sits nice and flat on there, and then that's where your mounting bolts go through. So that big bolt in the center, that's where the middle bush is. That just, again, stops it from rocking back and forth. 3 holes on here. The Land Cruiser 200 series have got 4 because they can. Why not? 4 mounting holes, and all you do, put them through there, and when you install it, you just do them up, and that's it. But always when you're doing it on the ground, post putting in suspension or new suspension, always do that lower shock bolt on the ground, as well as the upper control arms and the lower control arms. Okay, right. Very important because the bushes will flog out. Okay, and this last one, I just thought I'd throw it in because it's an IFS. McPherson strut. So this is what you'll find on pretty much every little passenger car around the place. Okay, so your car would have it. Blake's car's got it. Holly's car's got it too. So what that is, it's just the same coil over a strut. Okay, but it's a slightly different setup. And it bolts onto your steering knuckle here. And the whole lot, when you turn the wheel, will turn with it. Okay?
Oh, right.
So that turns, but the spring that stays the same. There's your 3 mounting holes up there, which on the front of these, you have to pop the bonnet, and the mounting holes are right there, just below the bonnet. So that bush, they mounted there, and in the middle, like in the other one here, like in this one, there's that top bolt with a bush, but that doesn't move. That stays as it is in there, okay? This whole strut and coil actually spins when you turn the steering wheel. Okay, so that's how it turns, and that's been around for a long time. That's one of the first things we learned about at Tech. So it's a very old school strut, but it just works. So like even other fancy cars like Beamers and Lexus, they run those. So they obviously work. Okay, so they bolt onto your steering knuckle, like I said before. Lower ball joint, lower control arm, no upper arm on this one. Okay, you don't need it. So that's what that mounts to the car, so there's no need for an upper arm. Okay, and the pivots up and down, and the lower arm is what makes it go up and down as well. So there's no need for an upper arm in this application. But yeah, this is not what today's about. I just thought I'd throw it in there. So that's how they all run. Is there any more questions before I've got a little video I want to show you. Is there anything else you'd like to know or ask before I show you the video?
No, you've been very explicit and trying to take it all in. There's a lot to take in.
There is, yeah. My word, there is. But when it's all working, like this photo here is the car like mine again. I just use my car because it's just easy.
Yeah.
It's just an example. So this is a very, very aftermarket front suspension system. So remember I was saying before about the remote canisters on the springs and shocks to keep the oil cool?
Oh, yes.
That's one of them. Okay, so this brand's GMF. So you've got your strut, which bolts onto a lower control arm, but this one's also a very aftermarket Hyperflex, a lot of articulation setup. And he's upgraded. This is just steering arm, so tie rod end and rack end. They've just replaced that with an aftermarket one, probably longer, so you've got more flex. Again, not really what we're talking about today, but I thought I'd just throw it in there.
So are these remote canisters in all cars?
Nope.
The oil cool?
So they don't come in any car, or maybe some luxury cars. Maybe, I don't know that. But like for cars like, dual cab forward drives and all forward drives, they won't come with this. Some of the older, well not older, but Prados and Land Cruisers have adjustable suspension. So it comes factory as air suspension. So you can press a button to lower it and heighten it. But that's just a little feature they have. But as far as these canisters go, no, these are an aftermarket accessory that you have to buy. So I've never heard of a car that has them on it from a factory. Maybe some of the new GR Sport Hiluxes, maybe, but I don't think so. But yeah, these are mainly for if you're doing a lot of forward driving and going over heaps and heaps and heaps of bumps and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it just keeps oil cool. It gives it more. It pushes it out and pushes it back in, so it keeps it cool. So it's separately stored from the actual strut itself. So that's the whole point of that. So
if the oil's not cool, then you've got problems.
Well, it's obviously going to heat up. Like I think there was a video about it after a good half an hour's worth of work. It's sitting at about 65, 70 degrees, which is pretty hot, and that's for a factory strut. But you compare it to an aftermarket one that's you're paying a bit of money for that sits at about 35 to 40 degrees at the same time. So it's a lot cooler. And the cooler the oil, the better it's going to be. 100%. All right, so we've just got this little video here. There's 2 videos I'd like to show you.
Oh, good.
This is just about some suspension stuff. This is just the IFS on just passenger cars, and not so much a forward drive. The next video is just a little short video about how it all works when the car is driving. It's actually a cool little video. So we'll see how this goes. Just a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm. The most common suspension architectures are double wishbone and MacPherson suspension. Each system has advantages and disadvantages. Understanding that aspects can assist consumers and car enthusiasts in making informed decisions when purchasing a vehicle depending on their use case. Today, we will compare 2 popular types of suspension and we'll try to make a conclusion which fits best for you. We will start with double wishbone suspension, and
so double wishbone is the one we're just talking about. So in the forward drive, we've got upper arm and lower arm,
yes.
both the wishbone type setup.
Pros. Improved handling. Double wishbone suspension improves.
So you can see how it's all moving as one, and pivoting and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Its design allows for dynamic camber changes in the middle of the corner, maximizing tire contact with the road. This results in improved traction and control, especially on uneven or difficult terrain. Many double wishbone designs allow the rear outside wheel to toe in when the suspension is compressed. This allows the car to enter the corner more quickly. As a result, the vehicle feels more agile and responsive.
But you see then how when he was turning the wheel, none of the suspension was moving, like the spring wasn't moving?
Ah, right.
Yeah, so that's the difference between this one and the MacPherson strut, which is next.
Double wishbone suspensions typically provide far more alignment adjustability with more camber, caster, and toe settings available. This adjustability enables the suspension geometry to be fine-tuned to meet specific driving preferences or performance requirements. Better alignment control is especially beneficial for car enthusiasts who autocross or race their vehicles. Now about cons. Complexity and cost. When compared to MacPherson struts, double wishbone suspensions are more complex and intricate in design. They necessitate the addition of additional components such as upper control arms, upper ball joints, and additional bushings, which can lengthen development time and increase manufacturing costs.
So that's those D bushes for the sway bar. They sit just along there somewhere. Yep.
The system's complexity can also make repairs and replacements more time-consuming and costly. Increased weight. The additional components of double wishbone suspensions can add weight, resulting in higher unsprung mass. This extra weight may have a minor impact on fuel economy and overall vehicle performance. However, advances in lightweight materials and engineering techniques have helped to mitigate this disadvantage in modern designs. Now let's head to the MacPherson strut suspension and let's talk about its pros. Easy and inexpensive. When compared to double wishbone systems, MacPherson strut suspensions are simpler in design with fewer components. Their small size makes them easier to install and maintain, resulting in lower manufacturing costs. This ease of use also translates into faster and less expensive repairs or replacements. Space efficient. MacPherson struts are space efficient, taking up less space in the engine compartment. This enables more efficient packaging, freeing up space for other components or passenger accommodations. It is especially useful in vehicles with limited...
But you see sort of here, lower control arm, strut, no upper arm. There's no upper arm in these ones. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Some might have it, but most time you don't really need it.
MacPherson struts offer a good balance of ride comfort and handling. Their design provides sufficient shock absorption and stability, resulting in a smooth and controlled ride. MacPherson strut suspension systems strike a good balance for daily driving in economy cars and even some light-duty trucks, even though they might not match the handling performance of double wishbone suspensions. But this suspension has its cons. Limited flexibility. There are fewer adjustability options for MacPherson struts than for double wishbone suspensions. This lack of adjustability might make it...
So that's the same kind of strut setup. So as you seat, okay, so that's what the spring sits in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's cool.
more difficult to fine-tune the suspension's characteristics to meet certain performance standards or driving preferences. This might be limiting for enthusiasts looking for a highly customized suspension setup. However, enthusiasts who own cars with MacPherson strut suspension often have access to aftermarket options. For example, additional camber adjustments are provided by...
So there your camber bolts. See how they're sort of off-centered? They're not,
Oh.
Yeah, so that's how you adjust it. So once that's through, you turn that and that makes the whole arm move to the right spot.
Right.
Yeah, so
Looks a bit odd.
it does look funny. My word, it does.
temper plates and aftermarket control arms.
Alright, so there you go, that's that one. That just gives you a bit of an idea of how they kind of work. And this other video here, let me just show you this one. This is just in a forward drive, just driving around on some lumpy and bumpy roads. Just have a look at how much this is moving around. So this is it here.
Exposing the secrets behind smooth rides and off-road beasts. Let's dive into the world.
Let's have a go at this. So there's your sway bar there. Strut and spring, upper arm, lower arm.
Yeah.
Look at it all going.
Oh my goodness.
There's a bit going on. But it's all in cahoots with each other. It's all doing the right thing.
Working very well.
Yep. So every time he goes over a rock, it comes up. And when he comes down, it all drops down. So yeah, it's doing exactly what it should do.
Oh goodness.
I said link rod going in and out as well.
Yeah.
If that was too short,
It wouldn't. Yeah.
it wouldn't last that long. There you go.
Seeing it like that, you can really see how important everything is for them to work together.
Absolutely. My word. All right, well that pretty much sums it up, but there's one more thing I need you to do for me.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can pass the quiz. After all that information.
After all that.
And that's the last thing. You're done after that. But yeah, so there you go. It's a pretty in-depth little system compared to like a live axle or a solid axle, which is just springs and shocks and other things. But yeah, this is interesting. There's just a lot of moving parts, so to speak. So yeah, that's cool. So
It certainly is.
yeah, do your best for that. Take a couple of minutes.
All right.
No
Thank
rush,
you.
but yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Let's see, eh?
Here we go.
All right, let's have a look. If anything's sunk in. There you go. Easy as that.
Not sure if I'll ever make a mechanic, but thank you for trying to explain all that to me, Joe.
No, that's all right. That was
You were
good.
very good, very explicit.
No, good fun that. So that's the end of the little session. But there you go. So is there any other questions? Feel free to ask away. But if not,
No, well, I think you've explained everything, and the videos were very helpful, and just seeing how they all work
just
together.
give you an idea, doesn't it? Yeah.
And I think it's a lot easier to try and follow it when you can see it
Exactly,
in action
yeah.
and see it happening.
Yep, my word.
No.
No, it's awesome. Well, thanks, Lindy, again.
Oh, my
And
pleasure.
we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the
Thank
next
you.
one. Thank you.